The Sinister Witch of 3 a.m. Discover terrifying haunted visits and hidden unexplained terrors. The chilling whispers of Maplewood had always been mere bedtime stories until the night the witch turned every shadow sinister, stalking the unsuspecting. Sarah trudged home after her grueling shift, fatigue gnawing at her bones, the diner's neon lights fading in her rearview mirror. Every street lamp was a flickering eye in the dark, eerily illuminating her path. But as she creaked open the door to her small, silent house, an overwhelming stillness suffocated her senses. "Timmy?" she called, her voice hollow. No response came, only the echo of her own worry vibrating through the lifeless rooms. A knot twisted in her stomach as she tiptoed down the dim hallway, the air heavy around her. She reached Timmy's room, his bed lay empty, and dread seeped into her bones. Panic clawed at her throat. "Timmy!" The walls seemed to swallow her screams. Heart pounding, she scoured the dark house, running her fingers along the cold surfaces like a frantic detective. Then, on the kitchen table, she spotted a crumpled note. Sarah snatched it, her fingers trembling. The scrawled words sent ice through her veins: "Beware the sinister witch that prowls at 3 a.m., stealing children who dare to wander." Her first thought was childish prank. But her mind reeled back to local whispers of missing kids, all under the witch's veil. Goosebumps erupted on her arms. Clenching the note tightly, she threw open the door and stepped into the frigid night, the air biting at her resolve. Fear danced in her chest, and she ran down the street, every shadow seemed to twist and curl, alive with malevolence. She bumped into her neighbor, Mrs. Dunn, whose worry-lined face felt foreign. "Have you seen Greta?" she gasped, eyes wide. A chill gripped Sarah as she heard the tale of Miss Dunn's daughter, who vanished just before sunset last month. Another flicker swallowed by the depths of Maplewood's night. Wait. What if Timmy was next? Struggling to keep her breath steady, Sarah found herself at Officer Perkins's precinct, desperation clawing at her insides. She sprinted toward him, but his dismissive attitude felt like a slap. "Just some late-night worries, Sarah," he chuckled. "You know better than to believe." The flames of fury ignited within her. Did nobody see the horror creeping in their midst? Shadows loomed larger as she stumbled away, the neighborhood once familiar morphing into an eldritch nightmare. A womb of darkness wrapped around her, each crack and rustle amplifying her distress. The witch had to be out there, lurking. Heart racing, she pressed onwards, an invisible fire licking at her heels. Suddenly, a glimpse of flicker of movement at the very end of the street, a shadow, haunting and inviting. Old trees stood as twisted sentinels, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. Her pulse echoed in her ears as she stepped closer. It was her, the witch. A shroud of tattered rags danced around a figure with an unnerving allure. "You've been chosen," the witch crooned, her voice chillingly melodic. The whispers flooded Sarah's mind, memories of betrayal and fear swirling like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The witch grinned, her eyes gleaming with secrets Sarah could barely comprehend. The darkness of her past intertwined with the threat looming over her son. "What price will you pay to save him?" the witch hissed, as shadows writhed around her. Sarah felt the world tilt, everything she knew spun into chaos. What was she willing to sacrifice? Her heart raced, battling instinct and fear. Somewhere in the distance, she could almost swear she heard Timmy's laughter, a cruel echo of hope. The question loomed. Would she face the darkness within to save him, or would she lose him to the sinister witch prowling at 3 a.m.? Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, a cacophony drowning out the witch's eerie whispers. Each moment felt like a lifetime. She stood frozen, the darkness threatening to engulf her. "What do you want?" she finally managed to stammer. The witch, with her ancient, twisted features, took a slow step forward, her presence suffocating. "Your child," the witch replied, voice dripping with honeyed malice. "What would a mother sacrifice for her little one?" The answer roared in Sarah's mind, but the words wouldn't leave her lips. The stench of decay rolled off the witch like a fog, and it pinched Sarah's nostrils. A dread realization clawed at her. This wasn't merely a negotiation. This was a snare, a trap meticulously laid out to ensnare her spirit. Timmy's laughter, it's not real, she whispered to herself, eyes darting around the shadow-covered street. She had to focus on the nightmare unfolding before her. You're a fool to deny what's offered. The witch's grin widened, revealing teeth reminiscent of blackened bone. Embrace the darkness. Let me show you no. Sarah's voice shattered like glass in the night. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet felt anchored to the ground. Images flooded her mind, Timmy playing tag in the park, laughing, warm sunlight bathing him in gold. She had lost so much, felt so utterly alone, but losing him to this malevolence was a terror she couldn't fathom. Just give me a name, the witch coaxed, eyes narrowing. I can help you. Release me from this darkness. What do you mean? Sarah croaked, confusion sliding into her fear. Tell me the name of the one who wronged you, the witch replied. Betrayers have their price. Betrayers. The old wounds surged back, the father who left, the friends who turned their backs. But her heart cracked open for another reason now, Timmy. It all circled back to him. In this game of darkness and light, nothing was sacred. The threads connecting her life trembled, threatening to snap. Unease curled around Sarah like barbed wire. My son matters more than revenge. Choose wisely, child, the witch cooed, the shadows around her fluttering like wings. Each sacrifice weighs heavily. With resolve she barely understood, Sarah turned away, casting a glance behind as shadows crept closer. She had no plan, no idea how to fight this terror. But one thing surged within her, a flicker of defiance. You won, take him. The words escaped her like a shot fired in the dark, igniting the air. Delusions. You are already lost, the witch screeched, her voice turning shrill. The wind picked up, shrieking through the trees, bending the branches. Sarah stumbled back as a howl echoed. Just like that, the witch dissipated into the night, leaving only the scent of sulfur hanging in the air. The moment of reprieve shattered as Sarah spun toward home, every step pulling her towards the suffocating dread of her empty house. She couldn't bear the thought of stepping inside, yet running from the threat felt futile. Was Timmy still there? Silence reigned, an oppressive weight lingering like a fog. As she neared her front porch, a soft thud echoed from within, a faint whisper of movement. Timmy? She called out, her heart racing once more. Sweat trickled down her back. Had the witch returned? From deep inside the house, a low chuckle unfurled, and it stopped her in her tracks. Mommy, hurry, she's waiting for you. The familiar voice turned sinister. It wasn't just a call for help, it was an invitation to the witch's game. Sarah's breath quickened as she hesitated, torn between relief and terror. Could it be true? Or was she walking straight into the trap? Shadows coiled like serpents, waiting for her to decide. What lay behind the door, her son, or the witch's malevolence waiting to ensnare her once again? The night deepened, the witch was not done with her yet. The door creaked ominously as Sarah stepped inside, the familiar scent of her home mingling with an unsettling chill that washed over her. The living room looked the same, but shadows danced strangely, twisting on the walls like phantoms. Timmy? She called again, her voice barely a whisper. It sounded more like a plea. Silence engulfed her once more, but that unsettling chuckle echoed in her head. It was as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for something, waiting for her. The air felt electric, charged with dread. She moved slowly, each step heavy with the weight of the unknown. Did she dare to venture further? The hallway stretched before her, dark and tight, each corner harboring whispers she couldn't decipher. The light overhead flickered, casting long, frightening shadows that seemed to pulse as if alive. Mommy, hurry! The voice resonated again but sounded farther away, distorted, echoing against the walls. Was it Timmy or the witch's cruel game? Fear twisted inside her stomach like a serpent coiling tighter, squeezing out rational thought. Show yourself! She shouted, clenching her fists. She felt angry, desperate. A shiver ran down her spine. The laughter rang out again, this time more sinister, weaving through her defenses. Sarah gritted her teeth. No more games. As she pressed on, the shadows seemed to reach out, wrapping around her ankles like ice-cold fingers. The living room turned into a labyrinth, walls shifting, light dimming. She stumbled into the kitchen, heart racing, pulse pounding. The knife block glinted, each blade a promise of danger and protection. Could she use it to defend her son? Then, a scraping sound, metal against wood. Sarah spun around and her breath caught in her throat. Shadows swirled and coalesced, forming a figure near the doorway. The witch was back, her silhouette framed by the darkness, arms outstretched, beckoning. "Come closer, dear," the witch crooned, her voice dripping with malevolence. "Timmy is waiting for you. Do you really think he is safe? Stay away from him." Sarah stepped forward defiantly, anger igniting her courage. Such darkness should not have control over her now. "Lies," the witch hissed, her face cracking into a grotesque smile that made Sarah's skin crawl. "All lies. The little one is so much fun. We play games, and you will pay the price." "Games?" she demanded, her voice rising. "What games? What have you done to him?" The witch threw her head back and cackled, a sound like shattering glass. "Sacrifices, my dear. It's all about what you're willing to give. Names, memories, all the things you cherish." Shivers gripped Sarah again. Memories of Timmy, his first steps, the warmth of his small hand in hers, daydreams shared under a blanket fort. Each memory felt both a blessing and a weight, desperate to pull her under. "Leave him alone," she yelled again, her voice rising above the chaos stirring in her heart. "I will never give you anything." The witch's expression darkened, fury replacing her playful demeanor. She took a threatening step forward. "Oh, but I can take and twist, child. We'll see just how strong your love truly is." Sarah could feel the heat of rage and love rise within her. She wouldn't let the witch win. But how to save Timmy? How to turn the tide? The walls whispered secrets, close and menacing, pressing in on her. Visions of countless mothers echoing in endless despair surfaced, women who had broken under the witch's demands. Sarah felt her breath quicken as she faced the abyss. What if she offered a name? Someone she truly despised? As the thought took form, another chilling chuckle echoed around her. But who would it be? "Decide, dear," the witch taunted, fading into the shadows as if testing her resolve. "Or lose everything." With trembling hands and racing thoughts, Sarah understood the stakes were higher than ever. As twilight turned to midnight, her choice loomed colossal above her. Would she outsmart the witch or would she plunge deeper into her dark web? Each heartbeat rang out, echoing through the now darkened house, mingling with whispers that urged her onward. The next moment felt pivotal, the air thick with imminent horror. What was she willing to sacrifice in this deadly game? The shadows in the kitchen twisted and curled like smoke as Sarah grappled with her racing thoughts. The witch's laughter still rang in her ears, a dark melody filled with malice. "Timmy," she breathed, the name a desperate incantation. What could she give? What power could she wield against this monster? The knife block stood silent, causing her heart to wrestle with the instinct to fight or flee. "Choose wisely," the witch's voice hissed from the corners of her mind, growing louder as if the walls themselves swelled with her presence. "This game is played with blood. What do you value most? Memories or flesh?" That awful, cruel laughter pulsed through the air like a heartbeat. Sarah pressed a hand against her forehead, feeling the sweat trickle down her temple. She needed to think straight. Timmy's laughter echoed in her mind, that sweet sound that brought her joy even on the darkest days. The very essence of her love twisted into a knife, slicing her heart open wider. "Something you don't particularly care for," a name she whispered to herself, scanning her mind. Who could she sacrifice? What could the witch take that would mean nothing to her? But each name conjured faces, memories, emotions. A wave of nausea washed over her. "Ah, I see the wheels turning." The witch reappeared, inches from Sarah's face, her breath a chill that wrapped around Sarah like chains. "You're so close, dear. Everyone has someone they despise, someone they wish could just disappear." Her fingers curled around the hilt of a knife, trembling, as her eyes narrowed in determination. There had to be a name, a figure from her past that would mean nothing if offered to this dark entity. Think! She roared into the darkness, her pulse quickening. Think of those who have wronged you. But the bitterness and rage faded to ash like a forgotten ember. The faces came co-workers, old schoolmates, every name felt too close, too personal. Sudden combat enveloped her psyche, a memory of her abusive neighbor, a man with repugnant habits and a disturbing history. He had caused her family pain. James, she breathed. James would do. James would mean nothing to me. The witch's grin widened, revealing sharpened teeth that gleamed in the dim light. Are you sure, darling? Choosing the fate of another is such a weighty task. Do you know what it feels like to watch someone suffer at your behest? Just leave Timmy alone. She yelled defiantly, emotions overloading her systems. The air crackled with energy, and silence stretched thin around her. Her resolve hardened like iron. Very well, let us see what fun we can have with James. The witch hissed, whispering over Sarah's shoulder, caressing her back with a phantom breeze. I hope you're ready to pay. With renewed confidence, she held her breath, darkness thickening, seeming to pull her deeper into despair. What do I need to do? She was ready to bargain, even if it meant stepping into a deeper shadow. Call for him, the witch urged, her voice seductive like silk, yet laced with poison. Bring him forward and see the price required for your dearest boy. Trembling, Sarah raised her voice, calling into the void, James, I bind you. By heart and memory, as you've bound me, I offer you. Panic twisted in her stomach. What was she doing? But love drove her, pushed her deeper into the game. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the house, a gritty, hollow thud that vibrated underfoot. The shadows shuddered, spilling forth like a tide. A figure began to materialize from the dark, an ominous silhouette barely contained by the quilt of night. Sarah. The voice, deep and tainted, reverberated through the walls. It was James. The realization slashed at her heart. What did she just unleash? Timmy! She shouted, panic rising, but her cry was swallowed in the encroaching darkness. As the figure took shape, Sarah's heart sank. The witch's laughter crescendoed into a piercing shriek, drowning the noise of her panic. Would she regain control or sacrifice every ounce of her being to save her son? The shadows closed in, whispering promises of unimaginable horrors, and the darkness answered back, so, what have you truly given to save him? With dread swelling in her chest, she realized, she may have fashioned a nightmare beyond her wildest fears. The true game had just begun. Sarah James's voice echoed, drawing closer, resonating from the depths of the shadows. The form solidified, draped in black, with eyes glowing faintly like vacant lanterns. Every heartbeat pounded like a drum in her chest, each pulse a reminder of what she had just done. Why are you here? She forced the words out, heavy with disbelief and dread. Mom? The figure faltered, its voice twisted by an undercurrent of anguish. Why do I feel so wrong? The witch stood beside Sarah, a dark cloud of amusement illuminating her sharp features. You see, dear Sarah? The binds of reality are fragile. You tore his essence apart and now he is neither here nor there. Get away from him! Sarah shouted, her voice cracking as fear clawed at her throat. She took a step back, keeping the knife poised between herself and the horror before her. I didn't mean to, but you did, the witch countered. Each choice has a consequence. James's form flickered, shifting as if struggling against some invisible force. What did you call me for? Why can't I feel my body? Why can't I? He staggered forward, limping as if a scar had cleaved his very soul. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. The couple of seconds stretched into eternity, and reality felt thin, gossamer. The air thickened, stinging her lungs. Timmy's laughter faded into haunting silence, a promise of absence that squeezed her heart. Shall we dance? The witch taunted, twirling in delight. Shall we play a little game of truth? Enough! Sarah's fury flared, pushed by the desperation for her son. What do you want? Watch closely, Sarah. The witch leaned down, her voice dripping with malice. James was an unworthy sacrifice. His fate has been sealed by your memories. It's your choice now whether they share in pain. No. Her voice cracked, panic filling her like ice water. She gripped the knife tighter, fingers white against the hilt. The shadows writhed closer as if they were alive, eager to consume. With a sudden surge, the witch thrust her hand out. You must trade. Her eyes glittered, flooded with wicked hunger. Timmy for James. One life for the other. Your choice once more. Don't! James cried out, his spectral hands reaching forward, pleading. Don't do it, Sarah. I can't handle this. Tears blurred her vision, the weight of this choice heavier than iron. Ignoring the witch's taunts, she focused on James, truly seeing him the boy who played ball in the yard, who cried when he fell, and who brought warmth on cold nights. Timmy! She screamed, the word tearing itself from her soul. No! I won T. Give him up. The shadows convulsed, caught between the shifting energies. Then you forfeit this chance, the witch whispered, her breath a caress that felt like nails on skin. You will bury yourself in the darkness that follows. You'll join your son in the afterlife instead. Panic surged, a tide threatening to drown her. What had she done? Her heartbeat felt like a death knell as she faced that truth. So be it. Sarah spat out those words, defiantly lifting the knife. If this was her end, she would go down fighting, not allowing the witch to steal even a sliver of her light. Foolish girl, the witch sneered, shadows thrumming, coiling around Sarah's ankles, dragging her down as James cried out in terror. Let him go. I demand it. Her voice rang out, slicing through the dark, filled with fierce desperation. As the shadows tightened around her, she thought of Timmy. His small hands, innocent and trusting. She had to find a way to save him, save them both. Just as blackness threatened to swallow her whole, a voice broke through like a beam of light. Sacrifice isn't just about death, love. Sometimes it's about living desperately, fiercely. The witch recoiled as if slapped, confusion flickering across her twisted features. Stand back. Sarah's resolve ignited like wildfire, a raging inferno against the oppressive shadows. You will not take my boy. But what price would she pay to keep him safe? The air crackled again, heavy with the promise of shattered dreams and dark bargains, and the walls around her pulsed with dread. Choose. The witch hissed again, her sinister smile growing wider. And in that moment, Sarah understood. What if I take your power instead? She whispered, a wild hope igniting within. The laughter of the witch filled the room once more, mingling with the promise of horrors yet to come. Careful, dear. The ties that bind can be severed, but at what cost? And deep within the shadows, echoed the terrifying question: would she pay the ultimate price or find a way to turn the darkness against itself? The shadows shrieked, swirling around Sarah as the witch released a cascade of laughter, piercing the oppressive silence. Take my power? Oh, how delightful! But do you truly understand what you're asking for? With a flick of her wrist, the witch conjured a vibrant swirl of energy that danced between them, glimmering like shattered glass. It shimmered with all the faces of lost souls, each one suffocated by despair and longing. The echoes of their cries twisted through the air, a chilling symphony urging Sarah to flee. Don't listen to her, Mom! James screamed, his form flickering like a candle in the wind. This is not a game. We can find another way. But the witch's eyes glinted, fierce and hungry. Don't be foolish, child. Every power comes with its price. Would you risk your very essence for a chance at salvation? Can you fathom the depth of darkness you would plunge into? Sarah stood her ground, heart racing as cold sweat trickled down her back. The fear wrapped itself around her like a chokehold, but something else flickered inside defiance. She couldn't let this creature play with her family, her life. What must I do? She demanded, voice steady against the tide of chaos roiling within her. She felt the power of the shadows clawing at her, desperate to pull her down, but she stood firm, ready to fight. First, you must understand what it really means to bear the weight of that power. The witch's smile was venomous, her voice a whisper that slithered into Sarah's ear. You will serve as its conduit, a guardian of the abyss, entangled with dark sorrows. You must bind your essence to this realm and become what it craves, a harbinger of despair. James recoiled, the tendrils of anguish tightening around him. Don't you dare. Mom, think. What happens if you fail? What if you become like her? Sarah felt the tears stinging her eyes. She was so close to breaking, but she couldn't falter now. Her heart called out through the haze. Timmy's face burned in her mind, a beacon of hope against the gathering storm. I want to become like you, she shouted, lifting the knife. I'll find a way to break this curse without losing myself. I'll fight you with every breath. Such spirit, the witch clapped mockingly, shadows swirling around her in a dance of malevolence. But make no mistake, Sarah, the darkness will come for you. It always does. As the witch spoke, the room began to distort, the walls bending and pulsating. Shadows sprouted limbs that clawed at her ankles, tugging her toward the unknown. Sweat dripped from her brow, and panic quickened her breath. Stay with me, James, she implored, eyes locked onto the flickering figure of her son. Together, we'll find a way out of this. The shadows recoiled, sensing her determination. The witch's laughter morphed into a howl, hunger igniting behind her eyes. You seek to bargain with a power you do not comprehend. To defy the inevitable, a futile endeavor. I refuse. Sarah shouted, feeling the surge of courage swell. I refuse to let you win. In that moment, the knife glimmered, reflecting the chaos brewing around her. With a primal scream, she plunged it into the ground. The blade sliced through the very fabric of the darkness, sending ripples through the air. A violent force erupted, shaking the ground beneath them. The colors of the world warped, twisted by the gravity of her defiance. What have you done? Panic edged the witch's voice as the shadows recoiled, churning violently. The walls shivered, the shadows shrieked, and just as Sarah thought she could breathe, tendrils wrapped around her arms, pulling her back towards the swirling abyss. The darkness threatened to reclaim her, and the knife felt like it was burning against her skin. And then, before she could grasp what was happening, a new voice emerged from the depths, soft yet haunting, echoing through the chaos. Sacrifice is just the beginning, my child. Only through acceptance can you unleash true power. As the darkness clawed at her, a wicked reflection danced in her mind, a vision of the witch, powerful and relentless, yet vulnerable beneath her own dark veil. Sarah's heart raced as the choice loomed over her. Could she turn this twist of fate to her advantage? The shadows howled, the light flickered, and the air crackled with tension. Time froze as she grasped the knife tighter, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Will you fight for love or embrace the power of the lost? Her world twisted into darkness, heart thunderous, as she realized the true depth of her sacrifice had yet to be revealed. What would the consequences be? What would she become? And in that fragment of uncertainty the darkness loomed ever closer, daring her to take the plunge. The world beyond Sarah twisted into a never-ending void, shadows lapping at her like ravenous wolves. She felt them pulling her deeper into the chasm of despair. The power she thought she could harness now felt more like a curse, weighing her down, suffocating her. Mom! James's voice rasped through the darkness, sparking a fleeting memory of warmth and laughter. You have to fight. You promised. With desperation clawing at her throat, Sarah forced herself to breathe. Her grip tightened on the knife, its cold metal anchored her, pulling her thoughts back from the abyss. She had a choice, even in the face of this nightmare. I will not be your puppet. She screamed into the void, her voice resonating fiercely. The shadows flickered, retreating slightly as if shocked by her resolve. The witch's laughter was a chilling melody, filling the void with malice. Oh, but you're already tangled in my web, dear Sarah. You think you can sever the threads without consequence? In an instant, memories flooded her mind. Timmy's chubby cheeks, James's infectious smile, the silly dances in the living room. They had fought through so much together. Taking a step back felt like betrayal. I'm not afraid of you. She shouted, her voice gaining strength. Fear is all-consuming, the witch hissed, shadows twisting around her fingers. Face it. You can't win. Not against me. From beneath her foot, a pulse of warm energy throbbed through the ground, surging up the knife and into her veins. She felt it like fiery tendrils. It coursed through her, changing everything. Tendrils of darkness wrestled with her rising power, and Sarah's heart raced as she realized she could channel it. "Your despair feeds me," the witch said, anticipating victory, hunger in her eyes. "Embrace it, become it." But Sarah couldn't stand the idea. The thought of being devoured piece by piece terrified her. "I choose love," she shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. "I choose to protect my family." The words felt electric. They sparked an ancient force, an awakening of something buried deep within her. The shadows recoiled, shrieking, as if her declaration burned them. Suddenly, flashes of light erupted around her. They filled the void, illuminating the faces of the lost souls trapped by the witch's curse. Their eyes opened wide, crying out for release, for salvation. It was their anguish that fueled the darkness, feeding it slowly over time. "Help us!" Their voices merged into a haunting chorus that filled the air with a palpable sorrow. They were his children, brothers, sisters, souls that had once known joy but were now bound in despair just like hers. "Mom!" James's voice was insistent, fragile. "You have to focus. Channel it." Sarah closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The darkness still clawed at her, but now, she could feel the light of hope deep within her core. She willed it to rise. With every ache of loss, she summoned the strength not just for herself, but for all those forgotten souls trapped in the shadows. "I'll take your power," she roared, thrusting the knife into the ground again, but this time, purpose fueled her movements. "And I'll set them free." A wave of energy washed over her, and the shadows writhed in agony, twisting and contorting, battling against the light she unleashed. The witch's scream echoed, raw and piercing. "What have you done?" The ground split open beneath them, vibrant light flooding the hollow. Sarah felt a rush of energy like never before, the power surging through her veins. Her body trembled, oscillating between light and darkness, as if she was becoming part of something monumental, something both beautiful and terrifying. As the walls shattered around her, she caught sight of disturbed faces, James, and the anguished phantoms reaching for liberation. "What's happening?" James yelled, barely visible in the chaos. "Hold on, But before she could finish her thought, the energy roiling within her surged like a wild beast, and the shadows screeched their final wrath. Bright illumination surged forth. It felt like the sun had shattered the night, but just as quickly, it dimmed, leaving only a moment of clarity amid the darkness. Suddenly, everything went silent. The air grew heavy, thick with uncertainty. Sarah gasped, her heart pounding against her ribs. Had she succeeded? But the relief was short-lived. The shadows began to coalesce again, gathering, weaving back together in a grotesque show. This time, however, they bore an unfamiliar shape, a form rising in the center, one that sent icy fear clawing at Sarah's chest. "What have you unleashed?" The witch hissed, now woven into the very shadows she had commanded, transforming into something even more ambiguous and terrifying. "Mom, look out!" James shouted, his voice desperate. In that moment, Sarah realized the price of her defiance might be heavier than she imagined. Could she contain this new force, or had she just set the stage for a confrontation even darker than before? The shadows smiled back at her, and she knew they would not let her go so easily. The darkness thickened, a suffocating blanket that wrapped around Sarah, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The figure that emerged from the swirling shadows loomed larger, more twisted and grotesque than anything she had ever imagined. It was as if the very essence of despair had materialized, showcasing eyes that glowed with a malice that made her skin crawl. "Foolish girl," the witch's voice echoed inside her mind, cruel and taunting, "you think you have the power to change fate?" Sarah's heart raced as she clutched the knife tighter. She could feel the heat of the knife battling against the chilling shadows. A bead of sweat dripped down her temple. There was no turning back now. She could almost hear James's heartbeat, a distant drum against the chaos enveloping them. "Mom, please," he yelled, his voice cracking. "You have to focus. Remember what you are fighting for." He was right. With a trembling breath, Sarah summoned up the fragments of memories, the laughter, the warm embrace of her family, the love they had shared. It filled her with a fierce determination. "Enough!" she bellowed, her voice cutting through the cacophony like a blade through flesh. With a swift motion, she thrust the knife forward, light flaring around its blade like a halo. This was more than a weapon, it was a beacon of hope, an unyielding force against the creeping tendrils of darkness. Suddenly, the shadows needed to retreat. They writhed in agony but grew stronger, trying to encircle her further. "You think that gives you strength?" the witch screeched, the noise reverberating in her bones. "You are merely a spark in my never-ending night." Flashes of sorrowful faces emerged again, surrounding her, echoing the pain and misery they had endured. They opened their mouths in silent screams, their suffering amplifying the witch's power. The oppressive gloom clawed at Sarah's resolve. "Get out!" she screamed, flooding the room with her defiance. "You will not control me." A fissure of light exploded from her, illuminating the darkness momentarily. The wails of the specters reached a deafening pitch, hands stretching towards her, ready for liberation. With each ounce of will, she pushed against the shadows. "Help us!" they cried again. "Set us free!" Suddenly, the witch's figure contorted violently, grotesque limbs twisting unnaturally. "You think they will save you? They will only bring you down." A grim smile spread across her face, sharp and jagged like a broken mirror. Shadows gathered behind her, darkening into a vortex, spiraling with unholy energy. Before Sarah could react, a torrent shot out from the vortex, enveloping her in chilling tendrils that slithered around her limbs. The cold seeped into her bones, a stark reminder of her mortality. Panic rose in her throat as she felt her own power wane. "Mom!" James's voice shattered her thoughts. "Fight it! Remember us!" But the pressure was relentless. The world faded around her, the faces, the light, even the knife flickering in her grip. It all felt like it was slipping away, down the gaping maw of despair. "No!" she gasped, her voice a strained whisper. "I will not give in." In one desperate burst of energy, Sarah focused every ounce of love and fear into a single thought, a single word. "James!" The shadows recoiled, as if her determination brought forth a barrier against their onslaught. The witch hissed, rage twisting her face into a snarl. "You think love will save you? It only makes you weaker." But in that moment, Sarah felt a surge of warmth, a spark igniting within her, a warmth that pulsed in sync with James's heartbeat. The shadows shuddered, hesitating as if caught in a sudden wind. They began pulling back. "Together!" Sarah yelled, a fierce act of unity blossoming. "James, believe!" Light surged again, pushing against the darkness with rage. But the witch's shadows were like a swarm, relentless in their advance. What if this was just the beginning? The air crackled with tension, and Sarah knew they had unlocked something incredible and terrifying. But would it be enough to hold back the creeping dread? Were they about to awaken something even worse? In the very fabric of that moment, uncertainty tangled with fear. The shadows blazed with fury, and the witch's laughter transformed into a twisted symphony of challenge. "Let us put that love to the test, shall we?" she hissed, her form merging deeper into the dark mass. As the battle charged on, Sarah realized she needed to make a choice before the shadows fully engulfed her. But what would she have to sacrifice to save them all? The shadows writhed, closing in around Sarah like a noose, tightening with every silent moment. She felt the icy tendrils digging deeper into her skin, siphoning her resolve with an agonizing slowness. The warmth that had flickered to life inside her wavered, stifled by dread. James's voice echoed in her mind, a lifeline amid the chaos. "Mom, please. Believe in us." His words were a beacon in the dark, fighting against the suffocating fear. She could almost see him, standing his ground, battling against the very essence of despair the witch wielded. With a gasp, Sarah pulled the knife close, feeling its warmth seep deeper into her palm. "No!" she screamed with every ounce of willpower she could muster. "I will not let you win." Her voice cut through the shadows like glass shattering, sending a ripple of uncertainty through the dark mass, but the witch only laughed, a sound that reverberated in the very marrow of Sarah's bones. "Foolish girl," she taunted, slinking forward, her ghastly figure swirling like smoke. "You've only just begun to understand. Love? It's a fleeting distraction. And then, like a sudden gust of wind, an unseen force hurled her backward. Sarah was thrown against the wall, the knife slipping from her grip as darkness wrapped around her once more. Panic surged. She was losing control, losing everything. "James!" she cried out, terror rising like bile in her throat. But the shadows pulsed, swallowing his name before it could escape fully. The walls of the room began to vibrate, resonating with a terrifying energy. The ghostly faces began to merge into one another, a swirling vortex of sorrow and hopelessness. They reached out with empty eyes, pleading for the release Sarah could not give. "Set us free!" they shrieked, their hollow voices forming a chorus of anguish. The witch moved closer, her form shifting. "This is your fate, Sarah. Chains of despair bind you. You cannot break free." Her smile was a macabre crescent in the deepening gloom. "Your love will only amplify your suffering." In that agonizing moment, Sarah remembered a truth buried beneath the layers of despair. The knife wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of ultimate sacrifice. It didn't merely represent her fight, it bore the weight of every moment she shared with her son, every hug, every smile they had exchanged. Collecting her strength, she focused on those memories, a cascade of warmth against the biting chill. "No!" she growled, surging forward against the invisible grip. With a sudden, furious thrust, she willed herself to the knife, grasping it tightly once more. "Fight with me, James!" she cried, using every ounce of her being to channel her love into the blade. The knife gleamed fiercely as light erupted, dispelling parts of the vortex around her. But the witch's laughter rang out fully now, an uproarious screech that drowned out the cries of the souls trapped in torment. "You think light can conquer darkness?" she hollered, the shadows behind her twisting into monstrous shapes, flooding the room with a gut-wrenching dread. "You are mistaken." The knife vibrated in her hold, pulsing with life, with love, but also with fear. Questions swirled in her mind. What if her love wasn't enough? What if the witch was right, and despair was stronger than light? As if answering her fears, the shadows surged forth, engulfing everything. Sarah felt a pang in her chest, the pull towards the darkness, towards the inevitability of terror. Could she sacrifice everything? "Let us find out," the witch taunted, lunging closer, her eyes burning with cruel anticipation. And in that moment of hesitation, the darkness quivered around her, not with power but with something else, something ancient, something that felt like a pressing weight against her spirit. The shadows coiled tighter once more, and Sarah braced herself. What hidden truths lay beneath this turmoil? What haunting revelations awaited them on the brink of surrender? "James, stay with me." There was no time left to think. If she failed now, everything would be lost. But did she have the strength to stand against such insidious evil alone in this nightmarish world? Sarah could feel the darkness clawing at her, desperate for her surrender. It was now or never. The shadows wailed, a cacophony of despair echoing through the walls of the room. Sarah could feel the cold tendrils grasping at her limbs, pulling her toward an abyss she feared would consume her whole. But beneath the swirling chaos, her determination ignited like a firecracker, illuminating the dark corners of her heart. "No!" she screamed, the words ripping from her throat with raw power. Even as the darkness pressed against her, she felt the warmth of memories flooding her mind. Timmy's laughter, James's messy hair, the sunlight spilling through their living room windows. "Stay together," she urged, gripping the knife tightly. The blade shimmered with light, reflecting fragments of hope, and its warmth flowed through her like liquid courage. "Love binds us. Love shields us." The witch's figure twisted in rage, her snarl full of contempt. "You fool! Love won't save you. It only binds you tighter to despair." Smoke billowed around Sarah as she faced the witch, now more monstrous than ever, each shadowy limb thrumming with ancient power. The room trembled beneath the weight of their clash. She could feel the walls vibrating with the dark energy, pulsing like a heartbeat of its own, but she stood her ground, heart racing. "Love is my anchor," Sarah shouted, fighting against the consuming dread. She could feel the stares of the trapped souls, their gazes pleading for release. "I will fight until my last breath. No more sacrifices. You will not take my son." Tendrils of shadow lashed out, but Sarah dodged, a surge of adrenaline pushing her forward. The knife in her hand flared, channeling the energy of her resolve. With a fierce cry, she lunged toward the witch, the blade slicing through the air not just as a weapon but as a beacon of defiance. Light erupted where the knife struck, burning through the darkness with exquisite brightness. It pushed back the shadows, making them writhe and scream. "You cannot hold me!" the witch screeched, trying to weave her way around the burst of light. But Sarah wouldn't let her. "James! Timmy!" she called, hoping against hope that her love would reach them. "I will free you both." And with that declaration, she plunged the knife into the ground again, this time channeling every ounce of love she had for her son, for the boy who represented everything she had lost and everything she was fighting to protect. The earth trembled beneath her feet, and light erupted in a blinding flash. Faces of the lost souls shimmered all around her, bathed in a glow that warmed her soul. "We are with you!" they chimed in unison, their voices merging into a harmonious chorus. "Free us together!" The shadows around the witch twisted and wailed, dark tentacles retreating from the radiance she conjured. But the witch fought back, tendrils lashing at Sarah in desperate anger. "You cannot escape your fate!" she howled, fury pooling in her hollow eyes. "You are merely prolonging the inevitable. I make my own fate!" Sarah shouted back, feeling an exhilarating surge of power within her. "And I choose to love." With every breath, she focused her will, channeling the energy poured into the knife. The light brightened, engulfing the darkness. The witch screamed as the shadows engulfed her, her twisted form weakening under the intensity of Sarah's resolve. Then, in an inferno of light and shadow, everything came crashing to a monumental climax. The room shook violently, shadows tore apart, and a brilliant light sliced through the suffocating dark like dawn breaking the night. "Timmy!" Sarah's heart raced painfully. "I'm coming!" In the midst of the explosion of light, she felt the pull of her child's laughter. The echoes wrapped around her in tenderness, fluid and familiar. As the light enveloped her, she finally saw him. Timmy stood before her, vibrant and pure in the shimmering glow, his smile illuminating her soul. "Mommy!" Timmy beamed, running towards her. The moment their hands touched, an energy rippled through them, a cement between mother and son, grounding them together against the chaos. The witch shrieked in a final, desperate roar as the light engulfed her, her cries fading into oblivion, and in one final brilliant burst, the darkness collapsed in on itself, losing its grip on reality. "Are you okay, Mom?" Timmy's big, innocent eyes searched hers, and relief flooded Sarah's heart as she knelt down, hugging him close. "I'm here, my love," she whispered, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. Together, they stood as the shadows faded into nothingness, leaving only warm daylight in their wake. As clarity returned, Sarah could see James emerging from the light, his figure whole again, looking the same as she had known him. Relief washed over her as she rushed to him, pulling him into the fold of their embrace. "Together," she said, her voice thick with tears of joy and gratitude, "we're together." James nodded, wrapping his arms around them like a protective shield. "You did it, Mom. You fought for us." Smiling through her tears, Sarah realized in that moment, they weren't just a family, they were a beacon of hope against darkness. Together, they fought the shadows, and together, they had emerged victorious. As they stood amid the brilliant light, Sarah's heart swelled with renewed strength. No more sacrifices. As a family, they had reclaimed their light, their love eternal, a bond that no darkness could ever sever. "Let us go home," she said softly, fingers intertwined with her two greatest loves as they walked into the dawn, ready to embrace the future together, and in the warm light of morning, their laughter echoed through Maplewood, a sound of hope, freedom, and the triumph of love over darkness. "And now, before you go, I need you to do something huge. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we're bringing just for you. Smash that like button now to help the algorithm feed the stories we all love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And please, I mean it, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.